Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Swarm.
Welcome back, everyone.
Yo, we had a wild recording on the previous episode. We had the privilege to interview the Instagram account, or the players behind the Instagram account, Tower Fantasy. And we had kind of a crazy reaction.
We did. If you did not listen to it, do yourself a favor and listen to it. It is a bit odd, but it's extremely, amusing. You know what I mean?
Yes, and we definitely had a lot of listeners, and we can kind of see the behind-the-scenes stats on who is listening and how many listeners are tuning in at one time, etc.
Yeah, so just so y'all know, we we provide our podcast through Podbean. That's our hosting site. And so with that, they give us all the analytics. So we can see who's tuning in, how often you're tuning in, and if our episode's terrible, because you'll leave it within seconds or stay with us the whole time. And we've actually been fortunate to have a really good response.
Yeah, we have over 1,200 followers right now.
13. Yeah, 12, exactly.
But the Tower Fantasy episode, there's a little graph that shows, average listeners. It actually made the shape
Of a
tower.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. We'll take a pic of that and post it on our stories so y'all can see it. But it is the highest performing episode actually that we've ever had, so we're pumped about that. And the other interesting thing is that we get analytics on the countries and the states that people are listening from. So right now we got the map up, and we're looking at it. Majority, 98%, are from the U.S., but we have listeners from the U.K. Scroll down, Jamie.
Spain, Germany, Colombia, Mexico, Panama.
I think maybe they thought we were part of the World Cup team or something. They thought we were soccer, and
That's fine. I'll take that confusion.
they're like, "Oh wait, there's a soccer podcast. Let's hit it up."
Yeah, we have one download from
Panama, Latvia,
Latvia.
Colombia.
Is it Latvia?
I think it's Latvia.
Awesome. Hey, listener out there from Latvia.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm sorry you accidentally stumbled across
Yeah,
us.
no kidding. And so then for the states, we got some sweet stats. Of course, majority, actually, only 50% of our listeners are from Louisiana.
And then we got Texas, California, Florida, Mississippi, Colorado, and New York. There's other.
There's what? 230
Other?
other? I'm not really sure what that means.
Is that Puerto Rico?
What's the name of your state? Panama. we need to make a song for our listeners.
Jamaica.
Yeah.
So we're very thankful to all of our followers and listeners. It's really cool to see that people are actually
We're pumped.
tuning in.
Well, I wanted to talk about some other stats, cool stuff on Tower Fantasy. We did a 3D print of the tower and did a giveaway, and it went viral. James, you're the 3D print guru. If you want to talk a little bit about
3D print pimp guru.
James is the 3D print pimp guru.
Yes, so we made actually, Paulo, one of the other co-founders of Cicada, created a 3D model of the tower very rapidly. He did it in about an hour, which is amazing.
You're not supposed to disclose.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oops. He's really good at modeling.
He's really good at modeling.
And he looks like a model.
So we're actually just chilling one day, and Paul was like, "Hey guys, how many windows are in the Plaza Tower, or Tower Plaza Tower?" Man, I always get that confused. And we're like 50. I don't know. So we're literally we're on Google Maps chasing down how many windows is in this model for Paulo to literally model.
He modeled it. We 3D printed it. We made a few of them and gave one of them away to. It was kind of a
architecture student.
Yeah, it was an architecture student.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And actually, the owner reached out to us. The owner of the building reached out, and they were like, "Hey, we want one."
Yeah, so we 3D printed a building for Joe Yeager, and we immediately got a response back saying we need more because other people at MCC Group were not very happy.
Someone got a little jelly.
People were fighting over the one 3D print.
That's the great thing about 3D printers. You can just make multiples of things.
Exactly. But with that being said, we're gonna make it kind of a standard thing. We're gonna start printing other buildings in the town and celebrate architecture. And
yes, we are in a collaboration with a few other architects and designers and structural engineers around town, recreating the 3D model of the Rivergate Convention Center, which is a beautiful, gorgeous structure. I guess it wasn't meeting. I don't actually know the story about why it was demolished. I'm sure Harris Casino came in and said, I'll give you a bunch of money for it.
Look, I'm not going to lie. I don't think it's very attractive at all. I don't think it's a beautiful building.
What?
Good riddance.
Oh, gosh.
I'm not a big fan.
Seamus.
Look, I don't have to like it.
You do have to like it. We are involved in it.
We are involved, but it doesn't mean I think the building was beautiful. I mean, there's a lot of like really iconic buildings that just don't really look that great.
Okay, well, that's the beauty of architecture is it can be very subjective. But we are involved in recreating the 3D model, and we will be printing it and creating like a little scale model for it. They're having an event at the end of July. The Preservation Resource Center is having like a VR interactive night out, so you can go to this event and you'll be able to see the building as if you were walking through it in real time.
We got to give credit. Miles Martin from M3 Studio is putting it on, and with a bunch of other players. There's literally like a huge team assembling this thing, so we're pretty pumped to be involved.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting on the technological side too. We're actually all collaborating digitally via the cloud, all working on the same 3D model. So this is pretty cool effort to create something that's part of New Orleans history.
We will also be doing a small podcast on the Rivergate model.
Look out for that episode coming out later in July.
So that's pretty much about it for the for what's going on with Cicada right now.
Yeah, and this episode for ULI is very unique. We actually got to do a live podcast at the Port Orleans Brewing Company.
It's a different experience, right?
Yeah, a lot of ambient noise, a lot of people chit-chatting. There's this buzz around these two dudes in the corner just like talking in a mic. But people were kind of coming up to us randomly, and we'd rope them in and bring them into a conversation. So
it kind of actually, for me, it felt like we were doing like a live broadcast after like a sporting event, and we were like talking about the players and stuff like that. And like people were walking over and they're like, what is going on? And clearly we're not talking about sports at all. We're talking about architecture there. But that was kind of like the feeling that I personally got.
That's the most intense we will get out of a live broadcast about talking about architecture. So Seamus, explain to our listeners, what is ULI?
ULI is the Urban Land Institute. It is a nationwide organization where professionals in the real estate environment, whether that goes from the financing aspect to the building aspect to the design aspect, all come together and join this group, and they learn about the synergies within the community.
So it's a really cool and captivating networking opportunity for a lot of big players in the city. So we got the privilege to be there and interview a lot of really cool people.
The intent of this particular podcast was we were covering their membership drive. So we actually get to talk to the head of the marketing for ULI for the Louisiana chapter, as well as the head of membership for the ULI chapter here in Louisiana, and also the president. But long term, we're going to be doing a building tour podcast series for ULI. Once a month, we will actually go to a building tour and kind of do like a fast five. We'll ask a bunch of questions to either the building owner or architect or whomever is leading that building tour. So we're really excited about that one. This one is a bit different. It's specific to their membership drive.
But we did get an opportunity to interview the Brew Master at Port Orleans and the architect who designed the Port Orleans building.
Yes. So if you want to jump ahead because you want to hear about the Brew Master, do that. Or if you want to hear more about the architecture of Port of Orleans, do that, because they got a lot of interesting things to say. The brewery is really neat.
So this is our first kind of live episode. You're kind of seeing us shooting from the hip, and we hope you enjoy it. Everyone out there, all around the world, Puerto Rico to Latvia.
To Latvia.
We love you, and thank you for tuning into The Swarm. Hi, everyone. I'm James.
And I am Seamus, and you are listening to
The Swarm,
a podcast about architecture and design.
We're two architects at the firm Cicada here in New Orleans.
The Swarm is an outlet that brings the world of architecture to the people.
Our goal is to educate our listeners about design and construction by interviewing locals who are making an impact on their community.
Yeah, this is pretty wild. We got to thank McDaniel Wyatt, who we actually have here today, for having us on this ULI event. McDaniel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. I work for Humphreys and Partners Architects by day, and by night, I am the communications director for ULI Louisiana. Today, we are having a membership event here at Port Orleans Brewery, and really the goal today is to tell more people about our chapter, invite more people in the real estate world to come meet us and kind of check us out and what we're all about. So, Urban Land Institute, it is an international organization, and don't quote me here, but we are the largest network of real estate professionals in the country. So,
Nice.
We're quoting you.
quoting me, you got me on air here.
A good group of people to know if you're in the architecture or design development industry.
Absolutely. Well, it also expands beyond that as well. Not only architecture and design, but also banking, law, every facet of real estate. We have members, across the board here on our local chapter.
Daniel, tell us a little bit about what ULI means to you.
Yeah, so for me, being in business development, essentially sales, I need access to developers, and I need to understand the trends and some of the things that are keeping them up at night. And so I get to travel a lot around the Southeast, and I see other ULI chapters, but what really sets us apart here in Louisiana is the access to the important developers, the important players. They're all at our ULI events. We did a tour of the Jung Hotel a couple of weeks ago, and I shared an elevator with Joe Yeager.
That's a great project, great people.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be able to sit there and spitball about the developments he has going on there, some of the trends that we're seeing in multifamily and apartment communities across the country, and kind of some of the things that they're trying to bring into their developments, you won't be able to get that. You can't pay for that kind of access.
Right.
So as far as our chapter here, you have a lot of key players that are doing a lot of really important things, and it's a very eclectic and engaging group.
Well, look, we are happy to announce that we will be doing at least once a month podcast for ULI at these events. Once a month at minimum, sitting down with ULI, potentially McDaniel, and definitely the building owner and or manager, and talking about those projects for those particular members who were not able to attend. So we feel like that's a big benefit for the membership. We got to wave Mike down here. You think we can get him in? All right, so look, we finally got Michael Bucher on the mic. Mike, thanks for joining us. Please tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your role with ULI.
Absolutely. Like Seamus said, my name's Mike Bucher. I am permanently employed by Urban Properties, a small boutique real estate developer and investor here in New Orleans. But in my part-time capacity, I'm the membership chair of ULI, and also the chairperson of the Emerging Trends seminar, which is our annual meeting in every January.
That's great. So tell us a little bit, our audience who are not members.
Yes.
What can they expect? Why join? Why join ULI? What's the perks, and what are we getting?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like to use myself as an example because I am the membership chair, but I'm also a relative newcomer to New Orleans within the past 4 years, but I'm not a newcomer to ULI, and I think what's nice about ULI and membership in ULI is, for me, it was really the continuity of knowing that I could walk into a place of like-minded professionals, network, get exposure to the industry quickly through, whether it's, architects, engineers, other developers, lawyers, bankers, everybody who's, tangentially involved with the real estate process. And so, in 4 years, I can, say I walked into a bar here. We're at Port Orleans. You probably already said that.
We have, but it's okay.
We enjoy saying it.
So come on down.
That's right.
And I know people who I work with and do business with. It's neat just to, I think that's just a small part of ULI. Obviously, the membership benefits go on and on in terms of your access to local, regional, and national programming, research, and just a network of, thousands of people across the country who, generally there's at least a few who probably do the same thing that you do, if not more.
And a lot of other businesses kind of have like these social events for different organizations and whatnot, but this one seems like it brings in quite a variety of different specialities, being a developer, real estate investors, or architects, designers, engineers. So it's really interesting to see. It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say that probably the one component that I think that maybe we're missing, if I can make a promo for membership, is more so on the city and regulatory side, planners, zoning officials, even, city council people. I think that there's a lot to gain from understanding kind of a lot of the times what we're doing here, more so than even talking about real projects, is talking about conceptual projects, things we think would be a good idea.
It's a great point.
So
people who aren't familiar with ULI, what's something related that they don't know about, like charity?
Yeah, I mean, charity is a great example of something that wasn't just a local initiative. I mean, the technical assistance panel, or that may have actually technically been an advisory services panel. There's a lot of different panels, but in either case, that panel brought in national resources in terms of architects, engineers, former politicians or elected officials to basically kind of interview local stakeholders, and a lot of them, I think they interviewed at least 80 people, and essentially kind of came up with a series of recommendations about what charity hospitals should be or could be, and then ultimately that was taken back to the LSU Real Estate Foundation and turned into an RFP, which is out on the street right now, and so that's a real live example of an initiative that started locally that had more of a regional or national impact.
Yeah, and we also did one, and forgive me if I get the name wrong, technical assistance panel or whatever we call it. We did one for Ochsner, the region's largest employer. They had challenged us to help spur ideas of how to bring more of a mixed-use component to their campus. We worked with a lot of stakeholders there, including JEDCO and Jefferson Parish, to how to make that region more attractive for millennials. And ways to kind of improve that area and make it more of a destination for their business.
I'm glad you actually brought that up, because when I think of ULI, again, I'm from New Orleans and I'm coming to the New Orleans events, but ULI is clearly, it's definitely national, but the chapter alone, we reach all of Louisiana.
Yeah.
So it's not just New Orleans, it's not just Jefferson Parish.
Yeah.
It's all of Louisiana.
And we're doing, just like, we do a ton of tours here in New Orleans. We have a lot of really cool buildings that people want to see, but we're also doing development tours in Baton Rouge. Some of our members in Shreveport are pretty big into ULI at a national level. So it is mostly focused on New Orleans, but we're getting more and more events and programming in other markets as well.
All right, everybody. So we finally roped in Stephen Farnsworth, the ringleader of ULI currently, starting his third and final year as district council chair, correct?
Correct.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be a part of it. This is cool. Cool venue.
So, Stephen, we wanted to ask you, what are your accomplishments thus far during your tenure at ULI that you're most proud of?
Well, yeah, thank you. I think I came in wanting to really grow membership, and I've been humbled to kind of understand that ULI National is not necessarily pushing like growing the membership is least important, and really what matters most is really membership engagement and the impact that we're having on the community. And I feel like we've done some really, really amazing programs. We did the advisory service panel on Charity Hospital, which was just we were engaged by LSU to do a report to kind of figure out how the development could move forward from a RFQ process. So it was not providing solutions. It wasn't advocating for one way for the development to be done, but that was really an honor to be asked to do something like that. The volume and quality of our developments in New Orleans right now, and really in South Louisiana as a whole, are awesome. We've got such great real estate and very talented young developers that are putting some amazing projects into the market, and we really, we're oftentimes the first ones they call to say, hey, can we do a building tour, or can we do a presentation to highlight our what we did here? And it's a great way to educate the real estate community on best practices, or how to move developments forward that are tricky.
Stephen, is there anything that, for those people who are listening who may be on the fence of maybe pulling the trigger to join ULI, is there something that you can tell them to push them over the edge to actually join?
Well, it's a wonderful way to get involved. There's tons of opportunity to be on committees, to be a part of ULI. So the quality of the individuals involved in ULI, they're in such drastically different fields, from architects to land planners to attorneys to financiers to developers. So you get a really well-rounded perspective of real estate development and just the real estate community. And so but it's not a forced networking. It's kind of collaborating on ideas and programming and things that I think we all gain a lot of value from. It's not like we're winning our next project at these meetings and all. We're really just learning and kind of grassroots, getting engaged at a level. So I think it's, I'd say to any prospective person that's thinking about it, even if you're on the peripheral of real estate, like your ideas are welcome, and it's a great place to learn and kind of network with people across the industry.
This is your third and final year as district council. What's next for you? Where are you moving on to? What's your next adventure?
That's a great question. I don't know.
He's got a big smile on his face.
Yeah,
He does.
So I think one thing that I've really enjoyed is I do a lot of work nationally for my own work within Walker & Dunlop. I'm in mortgage finance. I'm financing projects and working on deals with clients across the country. And while that's tremendously rewarding to be working across a lot of different marketplaces, the ULI has offered me the ability to kind of get rooted back home. And so whatever is next will be something else that gets me tied into the local community here in South Louisiana. So it's whether it's New Orleans or broader base, it's something that just to stay active in the real estate community in some other form, fashion.
Fantastic. Great. Well, we want to thank you, Stephen, for your time. We know you have a lot of mingling to do here at the brewery and a lot of beer to drink. So again, appreciate your time, your words of wisdom, and your successes.
Well, no, this is cool. I appreciate it's my first podcast, and I'm fired up to listen to the whole show when it comes available. I guess we're gonna put it on our newsletter.
We will,
I think, right? So hope to do more of these. This is great. Thank
right
you.
on. Thank you.
So we're going to pull in one of the brewmasters here at Port Orleans. We have Brian Allen with us here. Brian, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for coming.
Brian, tell us a bit about your story and how did you get here and how did you become brewmaster?
Yeah, I started making beer professionally in 1995 in Boston. Worked for a brewery that was right across the street from Fenway Park.
Nice.
After about a year and a half, they sent me to brewing school. I came back after another little while. I ran that brewery. I ended up building another brewery for that company.
You have beer in your blood.
Beer in my blood,
Beer in
pretty
his
much, yeah. Moved to Missouri, met a guy that wanted to build a brewery. I said, I know how to do that,
Nice.
and built a brewery for him, and was brewmaster there. Had a friend who was a consultant in this project and said, hey, they're looking for a brewer. Why don't you come down? Never been to New Orleans before.
So first time in New Orleans,
First
and
time
you're
in New
thinking,
Orleans.
how do I
That's
make
wild.
beer?
Yeah, so I came down. Well, I grew up in New York, lived in Wisconsin. I'm a northern,
Oh, my goodness.
northern boy.
Port Orleans is kind of a new brewery in town,
we
right?
celebrated our first year anniversary on May 12th.
Congratulations.
So, thanks.
Well, the
yeah.
space is amazing. How
Thanks.
did you decide, or how did the team decide to get into this place? We're on the corner of Tchoupitoulas and Napoleon on the riverside. So it's a
Right.
very interesting spot. It's kind of tucked away over here.
With NOLA down the street, with Urban South opening up down the street, with the amount of sort of craft beer being focused kind of in Uptown, I think they wanted to be in Uptown, and they were looking for a certain size facility.
Right. Before, I would say even 5 years ago, New Orleans specifically didn't have a lot of breweries. There may have been one or maybe two in town. I feel like now they're popping up everywhere, and breweries, like bars, are becoming the neighborhood spot. So can you attest or talk a little bit about how Port Orleans has affected the neighborhood, and do you see a lot of locals coming in that this is kind of part of their daily routine?
Yeah, I think so. It's a bit more casual or less intense than a regular bar. You know, typically the spaces are a little brighter.
It's definitely it's well lit. Well, Steven said earlier here that he was just so shocked that it's so clean in here.
It's super
thanks.
clean
Very
here, yeah.
refreshing.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you're making beer. Beer's biological food product.
Right.
And it's important that it's clean.
That thing stay clean for sure.
Well,
yeah.
it's nice too, and it's a little bit different. I'm going to describe the space a little bit. You've got like 25-foot ceilings in here. There's a nice brick wall in the back, and beyond that it's a glass curtain wall or a glass storefront that then you can see all the vats where the beer is brewed. Is that the right term? What do you call them?
Yeah.
The tanks?
Tanks.
The tanks.
Fermenters. That's good. It conveys the same message.
Brian, I want to ask you. I don't know, like when I hear Brewmaster, I feel very scared.
It's very intimidating.
It's very intimidating. That's like a champion title.
Yeah, I feel like you carry an axe with
No,
you.
you get a staff. You got a big staff.
Tell me and our audience like a little bit about like what does it actually mean? Does that mean you're in charge of all the beer that comes out? Are you kind of managing? Are you literally making every beer? Like what does that mean?
Yeah, so it's a slightly different. The title comprises a slightly different thing depending on the place where you're at.
Okay.
At a large brewery like Anheuser-Busch, right? They've got a brewmaster. There's no way that guy is making every single beer that comes out of there.
Gotcha.
There's no way that he's probably touching really any of those beers from a raw material standpoint. In fact, probably the people that are making those are actually Teamsters, At a brewery like this, I personally don't do a heck of a lot of brewing anymore. I cover some lunches or when people are sick or whatever, I'm able to jump in. But we've got brewers who do that, or cellarmen who are moving beer around, or clarifying beer, or packaging beer. Smaller breweries, if you're in fact titled the brewmaster, you're probably making everything that's coming out of there. So for me, a brewmaster is someone who's in charge of the overall brewing operations.
Got it.
Procuring raw materials, to the beer quality when it's in a bar or restaurant off your premises.
Okay. And are you also in charge of tasting, or is that?
Yeah.
That is also part of it.
Yeah.
So you're QA/QC. I mean, no one drinks a sip of your blowout without you tasting it and saying that's good to go.
Pretty much, yeah.
A blowout is one of their beer selections, by the way.
It's our IPA, yeah. It's one of our IPAs that we have in the tasting room. Yeah, so sensory analysis is hugely important. I don't think there are machines that can smell as good as a human nose, a trained human nose. So, Brian,
so we talked about how you guys have been in 1 year of operation. Are there any things that have evolved since you've been here as a brewmaster that have changed, that have gotten better?
Yeah. What's next for Port Orleans?
What's next? We've got a couple of new products that are coming out.
Okay.
So this space, right, this tasting room space, it's an interesting space. Our model is we do a little bit of retail here, and then we distribute beer to restaurants and bars and package and grocery stores. So hopefully people are buying it, bringing it home, and drinking it there. This space is kind of all about putting a public face, allowing for a customer interaction with the brewery, with the brand, with the beer. And we've had some beers that have, we knew we wanted to make lager. We knew we wanted to make Storyville. We knew we wanted to make Slackwater when we started. There are other beers that we put in package and put in distribution that sort of grew organically out of this space. We were like, we're going to open. We don't want to have just 3 beers. Let's try this. And people really responded to it. So it's like, all right, well, let's make it again.
Got it.
People really responded to
it. So it's a little bit of
it's a lab.
Well, no,
yeah,
exactly. It's a lab. It's trial and error. It's like, hey, throw it out there. Do they like it? They like it. All right, let's keep doing it.
It's our R&D test pool.
I dig it.
Well, it's really cool, and we appreciate you having us here.
Sure.
Yep.
It's
Thanks
really
for coming.
great.
All right.
Okay, so we just did a brewery tour, and we went to the back, and we got we kind of scooped up someone there who actually is the architect who worked on the Port Orleans building. We have Bert Turner with us. Bert, thanks for coming on the podcast with us.
No problem. My pleasure.
Bert, you are an architect at Mouton Long, Turner Architects. Tell us a little bit about the building that we're in right now. James and I have already kind of talked about the space that we're in, and we love it, by the way. You got the brick facade on the back wall of the bar, and you can see into the vat area. But we kind of want to know a little bit about your challenges as an architect, and how are you kind of pulled in on this job?
So, we were pulled in because we do a lot of this kind of work, concept work, where you've got startups that don't know where they're going. They need an idea. They need a direction. They had 5 owners, that were kind of asking the questions on who's the best fit as an architect to work with. So my challenge in the beginning was to make them believe in me as a person that they could trust. I'm not going to steer them wrong.
Right. How do you convince someone that you know what you're doing and that they can trust their investment with you.
That's
Look,
a good question.
I love this statement because a lot of architects, I think, believe that it's about the design to get the project. But what you're kind of alluding to is that they really kind of have to buy into you as a person.
It's a personal relationship, and
Right.
they value that.
They had this space already. The area was already defined, which is already in like a crazy position, being on the edge of Chop and Napoleon. You're right next to the river. There's this very industrial feel to it. Chopatoulas, people go very fast on it, even though they shouldn't. That's already a challenge in itself. And then you have the challenge of creating a brewery, which comes with a lot of engineering just to create the beer. So you have a lot of challenges just to start with, just with the building itself, right?
So yeah, they hired a guy out of Chicago who is he's a brewery consultant, and he's done a couple breweries around the U.S. He's done one in Singapore, and basically he had a vision of what the brewery needed to be like, but it wasn't on paper. Usually as an architect, we get an equipment plan, and it's all specified on what the utilities go to each piece of equipment. That's in a perfect world, But in this scenario, I had to lock myself in a room with this guy for probably 2 days, and basically, go through each piece of equipment and say, where does this go? After this, where does this go? And he walked me through the whole process. So I did the whole process equipment plan myself and drew it all and did the piping and did the mechanical, the electrical, all servicing it just by infusing myself into the process.
You have to interpret what he is saying to you and then actually make it real by putting it on paper,
Right.
which then translate to the builder who builds it.
Because somebody has to build it. I mean, it can't come from his mind, and straight to somebody building it.
So you could brew your own beer now, right? Is what you're telling us.
No.
Well,
I wish.
One more on the infrastructure side of things is that I know that the city of New Orleans has this stormwater management plan, and from what I understand, that this building actually has the ability to retain water on a very high level, just because when there's an X amount of rainfall, you have to withhold the amount of water. Can you explain where that water goes before
Bert,
it enters the system?
Bert, we've been told that there's a swimming pool under this building.
Is there a secret swimming pool?
There could be. There could be a swimming pool underneath the building. But yes, the stormwater plan for New Orleans did get us on this project, and we had more than 5,000 square feet of impervious surfaces, which the roof itself is 15,000 square feet. So,
Wow.
By us adding on to the front, it kicked us into a stormwater retention, review.
Which means that you have to hold X volume of water for 24 hours before you release it into the system, therefore making less pressure on the pumps that have to get the water out of here.
Which is, look, it's a great initiative. It's a design challenge. But in all, I mean, it is a great initiative for a city that is
Sinking.
reeling with, water mitigation.
So what's the solution? What did you do to this building to hold water?
So underneath the patio, there's a reservoir that you can't see, but it's down, 5-6 feet in the ground, and it holds water.
It's just a big
It's
tank?
just a big. It's a swimming pool. It's basically a.
We found it. It's under the porch.
And then that fills up, and it's got a little pipe that goes into the stormwater system for New Orleans. So it chokes down how much it releases into the city's stormwater system.
Bert, I want to get into some dirty info now. We realize that as fellow architects,
We're just pointing some stuff out.
we realize that there's a crazy skylight in the corner here.
There's a wall that intersects a skylight, and we were like, we're gonna put Bert on the spot here.
For those of you who don't know what a skylight is, it's basically a window.
I think
or
people
opening.
know. What a skylight.
You gotta
No,
explain
it,
Bert,
please.
Bert, go ahead. Tell us what happened there. I mean, look, it's not always pretty as designers. What happened?
I never noticed that before. It's kind of cool though.
And you know what? No one else would have noticed unless Seamus and I were being hypercritical here. But hey, next time y'all come to Port Orleans, look where the kitchen is. It's in the left-hand corner when you walk in. Look up to the top, and you'll be like, there's light coming in there, but there's also a wall there.
Look, I guarantee you at like 5 p.m. in the afternoon, it makes this great shadow from like the pipe on the wall, and it like creates this,
It does.
It's some
we
intention.
should have played that up, really.
Bert, you should have said it was intentional.
I should have played that up.
Yeah.
But
he told us before that they planned for it and that it was supposed to cast light against the wall.
Once we put a microphone in his face, he just buckled up and couldn't talk.
The whole space is nice. I know we're just ragging on you here.
Yeah, we're just giving you a hard
but,
time, man.
it's very warm and comforting while also being large and inviting.
I just want to put a plug. The website, our website, moutonlong.com. They do have the Port Orleans
Great.
webpage on there, and you can see the gestation of design that we went
cool.
through.
That's great.
So
Awesome.
the original design sketches are on there, so you can see what I'm talking about. Where the design started and where it ended, two different places. But you as an architect, you have to be able to coincide with your client and make them the best that you could possibly make them.
And you want to appreciate the process, and
Yeah.
it's really cool to see that. But we appreciate you coming and speaking with us.
No
and
problem.
Thank
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Bert.
All right.
All right, man. Cheers.